Came down to camp today because when I was here last week, I noticed there's a fair-sized tree that was pushed over this winter, and it's leaning to falling towards the cabin. So I'm hoping that I can cut it and give it a bit of a twist and make it come down beside the cabin. Hopefully. If I can get it down and not hit the cabin, I'm going to stay the night tonight. If I crush the cabin, well, I think I'm going to go home. If you see this tree right here, it's a fairly long one. And there's the camp. The angle that that tree is looking at, it's looking like it's going to hit the very back corner of the cabin. So I'm going to cut the little one that's in front of it. This one right here. It's dead anyway. But I'm trying to clear as much as I can to make that tree go to the left. I'm going to try and notch it on this side so that when it comes down, there's too many trees. I can't make it go completely sideways. But if I can keep it as far left as I can, I should be able to just miss the corner of the cabin. When we began this whole bushcrafting journey a few years back, I bought my first saw. I bought the Silky Gomboy. Great little saw. This one is the 240. Fantastic for cutting small branches or small trees. Very sharp. It's a terrific little saw. I keep it in the canoe barrel now, along with one of my twig stoves. That way, if we're out in the canoe and we decide we want to stop and have a bite to eat or whatever, I always have a couple of small freeze-dried foods or dehydrated meals. And that way we can stop, gather a few twigs, and have a bite to eat if we're hungry or whatever. Now, Anne also liked it. Nice and light for her, nice and small. So I decided to let her use that one, and because we were cutting firewood for campfires at night, I bought the Silky Big Boy. Quite a bit bigger. I could go after bigger trees. Fantastic. Again, very sharp. I got a couple of scars, I think, that can attest to that. But after a long time of using it, I discovered that cutting this way is not really a natural curve to your wrist. So when I was doing a lot of firewood, I found I would end up being sore. Again, Anne enjoyed using this one. This is the one she carries most of the time now. I upgraded from there and bought the Agawa Boreal 24. 24-inch blade, much more comfortable on the wrist. I could cut wood for a long time with this compared to that. But they all have their jobs. Some trees are just too big. I can't get enough to do it with this saw, so I use the Big Boy. Now, we've got that big tree to deal with. And this, I think, is a bit too small to do the job. And the Big Boy, I think that blade will just barely make it. So again, it would be a bit too small. So I ordered a new saw this week. Now when I need big trees, I bought the Silky Katanaboy 500. It's got a locking mechanism here to unlock. Then you push down. You got to unscrew it all the way. And the blade opens up. And then you twist it back down so the blade will not move. This has a 19 3/4 inch blade, a nice long two-handed handle. So if I've got to take out something big, this should be able to do the job. Now the teeth on this one are way more aggressive than all the other ones. But again, it's a pull saw only, so it only cuts on the pull. So you pull hard to make it cut, and when you push, you almost have to raise the blade a bit and push it back. And that'll clear the cut, and then drop it down and pull again. Now they say not to push down on it, just pull and let the weight of the saw do the work. Otherwise, if you're pushing too hard, back and forth, there's a chance that this blade, as you can see, it's got a bit of a wobble to it. It's not very stiff. So if you're pushing back and forth hard and it jams on something, there's a chance that you can break the blade. When you're closing it, you have to loosen the nut off all the way, push down, and as you're closing, it locks again. It has a safety feature that it will not go and grab your fingers. That way you got time to move your fingers out of the way, push the button, push it the rest of the way in. Once it's in, twist it down, and it won't open. So now, we've got the small, slightly bigger, all the way up to the tree monster. Because this one will chew through the trees. This gives me the best chance, I think, at taking down that big tree. With this one, I might have been able to do it, but it would have been a lot more work. So let's get set up and see about taking that thing down. I'm going to cut off as many of these lower branches as I can and go up as high as I can. Luckily, this saw gives me a long reach, but I want to try and cut as high as I can, especially on the left side. To try and keep this thing going that way. So I think that's about as high as I'm going to be able to reach. So I'm going to try and find a good angle for the camera. And see if I can cut this thing down. While I'm doing that, I don't need the saw. So I will close it up and set it aside so that there's no chance I cut myself on it. So I've cleared all the branches I think I'm going to need to make this thing fall where I hope it will. And now I'm going to see if I can notch it to keep it left as much as I can. Here's hoping. I think the weatherman lied to me, because they didn't call for any snow today. I think it's caught. This tree is also dead, but I think it's caught with another tree there. So I may have to cut this one and let them both go down. So here's where it's going to get tricky. I don't know if you can see that, but all the branches up there are tangled up together. So I'm going to have to try and cut that smaller tree a little bit shorter and try and pull it down, and hopefully that'll bring the big one down. So the big one has fallen off the stump, but it fell forward. I'm going to see if I can pull it back and make the top come down. Of course, there's a branch in the way right there. Now, cut this. In the hopes of being able to slide that stump back far enough. The good part is, by pulling it back, there's less chance of it hitting the cabin. Got the camera somewhat protected behind the tree. Success! That was a lot of work. Okay, so there's the tip of the tree. And right there's the cabin. So I pulled it far enough back that we missed the tree. So that's perfect. Now, I'm gonna have a whole ton of firewood to cut up. Okay, the tree is down. Anne's back there, knocking off the branches and cleaning it up. I cut off a section, I brought it out here, I'm gonna cut it up. While she's still branching. And that way I can just cut chunks off and bring it out and cut it up for firewood. But looks good. Now, my other saw is fantastic because I know the handle is wood stove length. But I checked it out, I compared this one to that one, and wood stove length is right up to this second pin here. So while she's cutting branches, I'll cut some firewood. Nice, flat, smooth. That saw cut's beautiful. So Anne's been hard at work getting all the branches off. Now I'm going to have to cut a section off and then see if I can pull more through so that she can keep going with the branches. So that's that whole big tree all cut up down into stove lengths. That new saw works fantastic. It was just chewing through that. There's no way I'd have got all that cut with the other saw. No way, because the bottom was too big. The upper part isn't bad, but some of the bottom pieces are huge. The Agawa would have cut that, but I'd have been at it for a lot longer to get all that cut. So I think that's going to come in handy when I got big trees to take down. I got that tree all cut up. I'm almost done splitting it. I had to take a short break to bring Anne back to the car because she wanted to go home. I'm splitting these up. And putting them in the sleigh. And then I'm bringing them over and piling it up in the cabin so that it'll stay dry. We ended up having lunch a little later than usual, so Anne wasn't hungry. I didn't want to stay for supper because it's already getting late. It's almost 7 o'clock now. She wanted to get home before dark. But these burgers are out here and they've started to thaw. So I'm going to cook them all and bring home the leftovers. If there are any, because I'm hungry. Burgers are almost ready. So, thick sliced, fully cooked bacon. Because there's no point having a burger if you're not going to put bacon on it. So because they're fully cooked, they just need to be warmed up a little bit. So I'm going to put them off so that they're not directly over the flame. That's way down there. Burgers are done, pretty much. Bacon's warm. So now I'm going to add cheese on 2 of these burgers because I know I'm going to eat 2. And I'm going to warm the buns over the fire. Move this bacon because it's getting a little too hot. Bit of mustard. And there we have it. The perfect cheeseburger. Just came in from outside. And the thermometer I have out there says it's -7, which is, hang on, I'll check the thermometer in here. Yeah, outside says -7, which is right around the 20-degree mark in Fahrenheit. In here right now, it's 14 degrees. which works out to, oh no, it's 15 degrees in here, which works out to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And as you can see, I took my sweater off. We got a lot done today, a lot of firewood cut. And I forgot to mention earlier, I think, that Silky saw comes in a nice Velcro closure case with a sling on the back, so that when it's not partially frozen, it extends easily. There we go. So you can strap it to your back and carry it along quite easily if you're going with just that. But now that all the work is done, it's time for a Amsterdam downtown brown. I don't know if you can see that from the glare. Oh. But I got this side full, or close to it, and I've got a whole bunch of firewood on the other side there. Let me see if I can spin the camera and show you. I'll put that where I'm not going to kick it. There's quite a bit of firewood there. Now I can sit and relax and have my beer. Oh, that was well deserved. I took a little walk behind the bush there, and I found just a short, dead standing, maybe 7 feet tall. It had broken off, and it was about that big around. I'd say 6 inches in diameter, 7 inches. So I cut that down, and I split all that. I brought some of it in here, and I left some out there for the outside fire. But I didn't want to wait too late before coming in to make the bed, and once I came in and made the bed, I figured, well, I may as well stock the stove and just stay in here for the night. It's nice and comfortable. I've got a box beside me here, which I'm going to move closer to the bed when I go to bed. And it's got just kindling and some birch bark, so that if I wake up and the fire's too low and I'm getting cold, I can start it up quick. If I'm warm, I'll go back to sleep. I'll light it again in the morning. But for now, it's keeping things nice and cozy in here. Well, I think I'm going to kick back, relax, enjoy the evening, finish this, and we'll bring you back in the morning. Unless something drastic happens tonight, which I highly doubt. Good morning, everyone. Wow, that was a good night. It's a little cool in here this morning. The stove had died down. I just stocked it up again. I hope it takes off. Wow. Oh. Oh, it's a little cool in here, but it's probably really cold out there. Oh. I slept very well. And this whole sleeping bag situation works fantastic. Feels like I'm sleeping in an oven. It's nice and warm in here. Kind of don't want to get out. Oh. Oh yeah. All right. I gotta crawl out of here. Oh. Put my pants back on. And then we'll start getting ready to make some coffee. Now we're gonna perfectly measure our coffee. Yeah, about that much. That ought to do it. So that saw worked out great yesterday. I'm glad that I was able to bring that tree down without hitting the cabin. That's a plus. There's still a lot of work to do, but I think we're going to wait for the snow to melt. Now that we've made it this far in the season and we can use it with the tarps. We'll wait for the snow to melt. And once we can get some moss again, we'll put up as much as we can until the frickin' mosquitoes start to chew us alive. Once the mosquitoes get too bad, we'll stop coming here like we usually do, and we'll come back in the fall when the mosquitoes are gone again. We'll get done what we can in the spring, and then we'll come back in the fall and finish closing off the walls and try and get that front wall built before the snow hits again. Who knows? We might even extend it out just a little bit more, but I was thinking extend it out a bit more to give us a little bit more space to hang our gear, but we'll have to see what goes on between now and then. We'll get the side walls done up, and if I have time, we might extend it, or I might think of something else. Who knows? A lot of time between now and then, and a lot of ideas go around. Oh, there goes the battery for the light. So, got the light going on the battery again. And silly me decided to go outside and check that thermometer for you. Wow, it's minus 16 Celsius out there. Works out to about 3 degrees Fahrenheit. In here, now that I've got the stove pumping, I'm climbing up again. I'm sitting at 3 degrees right now, Celsius, which works out to about 32 or 33 Fahrenheit. But like I said, the stove was pretty well out this morning when I got up, when I woke up. So water's almost boiling. A lot of steam coming off of it. May as well get my oatmeal ready. Brown sugar, apple brown sugar, and I just spotted an apple cinnamon in there. I'm going to throw that in just to give it a little flavor. It's not quite boiling, but I'm hungry. It's hot enough for me. And there's a whole liter of water in there. There's 2 full water bottles. So if I take a little bit out to make my oatmeal, it should help the rest boil a little faster. We have a boil. Let's make some coffee. There you go. There. Pour a little bit in my cup. So I can start having my coffee while I finish making my coffee. So I had some time this week. I was able to go on Amazon and find quite a bit of my gear and get some of the links. Now, once again, I make $0 on that. That's just because people have asked, they want to go and see what it is. So what I'm going to do is whatever I used here this weekend, I will put the links in the video description. So those who want to see it can go and look at it. Those who don't, no skin off my nose. I don't make a dime. I'm not affiliated with any of these companies. Now, not all of my gear will be there because not all of my gear comes from Amazon. The big axe that I use, I just picked that up at the hardware store. I was looking at the small hunter's axes that everybody's using, but I don't see the point in spending $100–150 on an axe that I can pick up at the store for. It's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit heavier, but it does the job. let's face it, I don't mind carrying the extra weight. In the winter, coming out here, I use the sleigh, and in the summer, I bring the hatchet if I can get away with it. I bring the axe if I need it. If I have to carry it, I have to carry it. But for those who asked, the links will be there. I'm kicking around the idea of, I got a few dead trees that have fallen over, then they're fairly big, but underneath there's gravel. So I'm throwing around the idea of possibly this spring or early next fall digging up some of that gravel and just putting a light coating in here. That way when I get the stove going in the winter and it warms up in here, I'm not stepping in mud. But we'll have to see how much gravel is in there, and it's not going to be a whole lot of fun because it's going to be pail by pail. Oh well, little work never hurt anybody. I do, however, want to put a window in that front wall. I'm thinking I've got more of that clear plastic. I might grab 2 logs and go, I don't know, maybe a foot and a half, and wrap the plastic a couple of times around both. Tie the top one to the roof, tie the next one down, pull it down tight and tie it, and then just finish the walls on either side coming up from the ground. And that way it'll give me a window at the top enough to let light in, because I don't want the window to see outside. I really don't care. I know what's out there, trees. But it would be nice to have some light in here, because I mean, let's face it, it's 20 after 8 in the morning. If I go out there, I can see what's going on. It's light out. It's cloudy, but it's light out. But in here, if I don't have the light on, you ain't seeing nothing. The tarp that I have covering the peak right now, I bought a larger one. And once the snow is gone, I'm going to put it on. But it should come almost to this last beam right above the stove. So it'll cover more of the roof. And it'll cover the canvas, because that canvas is great. It's waterproof canvas. But if it stays wet for too long, but if I put that tarp over top, it'll keep the water off the canvas as well. It'll give me an extra layer up there, at least up to here. And I still have a section of the old tarp that I used for the walls, and it should be just big enough to give me a little bit of clearance. I can come in underneath the new one, and it'll cover the back. And I'll do that when I stop using the wood stove. I'll put the new tarp on top. I'll put the older tarp covering the bottom. And that'll keep all the frickin' weather off of that canvas for the summer. It'll protect it very well. And when I come back in the fall, I have the option of either just removing the bottom part of the tarp, or I might just cut a hole a little bit bigger than my stove jack, and that way most of the canvas stays covered anyway. But again, that's another job for the spring after the snow's gone. I'm gonna finish my coffee and start packing up and organizing stuff. Once I'm mostly packed and organized, that's where I'm going to decide if I'm going to stay and do a bit more work or just take off and head for home. But I'm leaning towards head for home because I got to get ready for work tomorrow morning. I'm still organizing and packing things away. And I happened to take a look at the thermometer. I've warmed it up to 15 degrees Celsius so far, which is, what, 60 degrees Fahrenheit? So, it can get decently warm in here. And anybody that thinks 15 degrees Celsius isn't warm enough, go out in minus 16 and see what you think when you come back into the 15 degrees. That's a 30-degree jump. For a tiny little stove, I won't argue with that. That's plenty warm. Still not wearing my sweater. I'm okay with that. That little stove does its job quite well. Thank you, Pomoly, for keeping me warm. And keeping my coffee hot. In case some of you are wondering how the stove jack is doing, I thought for sure this flap would take some damage because when the pipe comes through, the flap rests on it like that. But there's just enough clearance that by the time the heat gets here, it's not even hot enough to brown it, which is awesome. I'm almost ready to head out of here. It's earlier than I thought it was going to be, but that hill's going to be nasty to climb. I did one trip up already. I brought up my pack and the big sleeping bag just so that when I'm going up that hill with the sleigh, it's just me and the sleigh. It's going to be hard enough to pull that up without having a pack on my back. And we're at that time of year where we've hit a couple of warm days and it melted that top layer of snow. And all the steps and the flat spots that I made going up that hill have all melted. It ran down and it pretty well smoothed out the hill. We got just a little bit of snow yesterday, not even enough to say that was snow, but it was just enough that it put a light coating on that hill. I went up with the pack this morning and the pack and the sleeping bag, and I had fun trying to get up there. It's a little bit slick. So that's going to be it. We want to thank you for joining us on this fantastic weekend. We got a lot of work done, a lot of wood cut. Finally got a new splitting log. Not sure how long it'll last, but we'll see. But now with that big boy, next time I need a splitting log, I'm going after a big boy. Oh. So thanks for coming. We appreciate having you along. It's always a good time. And we'll see you on the next one.